A little bit about the Fancher's building. I'm sure you guys know a lot more about it, the history of it, than I do. It's a 4-story building, and there's actually a basement under it too, so whether you count that as a story or not. Built sometime in the 20s or 30s. It's a heavy timber type construction building. And what heavy timber construction means is there's many buildings in Salamanca, probably this building is built heavy timber. From the outside, it looks all pretty much fireproof. It's all block. But on the inside, everything that connects everything together is done with heavy timbers, and it's all wood on the inside. I have pictures later that will show you that. Very, very popular building back in that time. Actually, there's still buildings built out of this type of construction today for different areas and different types of uses. Being that hardwoods were so popular in this area, this building had some timbers inside of it that were 12 by 16, all solid hardwoods. I don't know how many of you were in the building, but it was really pretty impressive to look at the timbers in there. And I was fortunate enough to have been in the building many, many times over the years. Looking at it from a firefighting standpoint, most firefighters, when they walk up there and see it, they'll pretty much know it's a heavy timber type construction. These stars, basically what these are on the outside of the building, and they would run steel bars through here, sometimes all the way through to the other side to kind of hold things together. Wow. That's what these stars are. Firefighters look for these stars, and when they start popping out, stuff like that, you can tell if there's going to be a collapse. Knowing that this building is a heavy timber construction, looking at the building as far as the state of disrepair, repair, when air gets to fire, fire burns rapidly. That's pretty simple. You got to have air for fire. So when you see a building like this and you see it on fire, you start looking and you see all the places that air can get in. So you know that once it starts on fire, it's not going to have any trouble getting air to it and really making it go. This building, up till this past winter, was the first winter that the sprinkler system wasn't charged. They didn't heat the building this past winter. Prior to that, the winter before that, they still heated the building. So the building maybe not look all that great from the outside, but actually it was a pretty solid building. I was in it probably a week before it burned. There was a couple minor roof leaks in it, but all in all, it wasn't all that bad inside there. They had used it up until, I believe, 2 years ago as far as the manufacturing. One of the things when they had the auction, they sold everything out of it. They took some doors out, and they actually, I don't know if I have pictures of it later, but they took a big hunk of it out right here to get all the machinery out, and they just hung a blue tarp over it. You know, I mean, that's, I'm sure what they needed to do to get it out, but that allows a lot of air in there if the building's on fire. Okay, looking at it, I know it's kind of hard to see, but this is the building right here. It's very, very long and very thin. Looking at it, it's a lot thinner than it looks. In the pre-planning stages of the fire, we said, well, you know, if it gets on fire, it's not that wide of a building. If we've got hose lines in the windows, we can almost flow water all the way through it, which, in essence, we tried, didn't work, but it's one of the things we were thinking about. And if you see these walls right through here, these are all fire stops. Now, those were built into the building as a fire protection thing, so when the fire hits it, the fire should stop. Inside the building, and I don't know if you've ever been in older buildings, I don't know if this has any or not, they had big sliding doors that were spring-loaded, so if you opened it, it should spring shut, and those are all fire doors. Being all the people have been in there, kids, workers, whoever, people probably got you moving stuff out, a lot of they're pain in the ass. So they cut the ropes and the cables, and a lot of the doors would stay open. They didn't operate anymore. When we'd go through there, if we heard there was someone in there, we would try to go back into there and shut all the fire doors and keep everything buttoned up so that it wasn't such a fire hazard. But in the end, it still got through. So that's another thing that we were looking at, is these different firewalls. So here's basically the Fancher building. Right across the street, we call it the old Fancher building, but there's a building here that's been vacant for a long time. I guess initially it was part of the Fancher building. And then there's Luminite Products right here. actually, this picture, I'm not sure it was taken, but I had driven by this doorway, and it was in that state the same day of the fire. And we went back and said, hey, you know, someone's got to go and secure the Fancher's building again. Being it was such a cool building, I don't know if you guys were ever in it, it was a really neat building, so I'm sure people wanted to go and look at it, because it was pretty neat inside there. It was a neat old building, neat old timbers. So it probably drew people in there to look at it. When the alarms came in, we had, probably over the past year, we'd had multiple alarms over there. Most of them were just little fires and really hadn't developed anything. This picture isn't when we received the alarm. This is probably, I'm guessing, maybe a half hour into it. When we got the alarm at the station, this is taken right out back of the police station. I did look out the back window and saw smoke, not that much smoke, so I knew that we had something significant going. When we initially attacked the fire, Salamanca Engine 1 was here, the ladder truck here, and Engine 2 came up on here. The fire started at this east end of the building, and one of the things that happened, the weather conditions of the day, is the wind was coming out of the east. Now, how often does that happen around here? It doesn't happen a whole lot. It's coming out of the southeast. And where's the fire? The fire started in this loading dock area right here. So you can see by the smoke that the wind is going to the east. It's not a real strong wind, but it doesn't take much to push, on a building that size, to push air in through every opening that's there. You can see here we initially pulled up, started attacking the fire here, trying to get the aerial around so that we could hit it from the side and try not to push it through the building too much. But as the wind picked up and the material that were here, this area of the building on the second and third floor was also where they stored all their paint, all their chemicals and stuff like that. So once, there wasn't any in there, but it was all in the floors and the oils and different stuff. It was all embedded in the wood through there. There was also, on that end of the building, there was also a lot of office space. There was a lot of wooden partitions and stuff in there to really give it a good start. This is, I believe it's myself and Assistant Chief Ellis. We started fighting it down there. We decided that we needed to evacuate Luminite. So this is the guy that owns Luminite car. He's like the last one needed right at the moment. And then we were making a decision how we were going to fight the fire, whether we dare put anything on the street or not. And we both determined that it was not safe at that time. The way the wind was blowing right there, it could bring everything right down on you. Firefighters make a determination when they go to a fire whether they're going to fight it offensive or defensive. Offensive means if someone's trapped in there, we're going to go in there and try and knock it out. And if the fire is contained to a room or something, a lot of times we could safely go in there and put the fire out. At this point, we decided it's going to be a defensive operation on this building. We hadn't had any reports of anybody being in there, and we wanted to protect our exposures, the buildings around it. There's a picture there. We've got the aerial up and operating. This fire moved so fast through this dry hardwoods that by the time we came up with a plan, put the plan in operation, we were almost too late. I mean, the fire moved past where we were thinking. We couldn't set up fast enough. So we kept backing up. You can see right here now the fire's gotten down in here, it's gotten in the basement, it's gotten up onto this upper floor. And again, thinking defensively, we said, well, let's try to keep it from jumping the road, getting into the cones. Let's try and see if we could do something to protect Luminite. So we ran this hose line up here because we figured for sure the fire could travel across this tube. That's just like a funnel for the fire. So we ran this hose up inside this building with what they call water curtain up inside this tube. So we could charge this line and that would just fill that tube with water basically to stop the fire from going across. Everything's going pretty good at that point. We're getting to the point where I think we've already had to move the ladder truck back because it was too close. The fire had gotten going. You can see we're getting an awful lot of fire up through these floors all of a sudden, just like that, really, really quickly. And the next slide is going to show us and the next couple slides will show it. On this side of the building, when the fire started right in this corner here, there was a conveyor that went to every floor. And there were big doors at that conveyor. So you could see the fire running right up this conveyor, and then the wind's coming this way, remember, coming from this side and the south, and it's blowing everything And you can see the spot where it almost, I don't know, there might have been something in there where it almost explodes back in there. And you can see the conveyor there after blah, blah, blah. So that took fire, and our first fire stop was right here. Actually, that's the blue car from the upper Goldberg. So our first fire stop is right there, but we know we can't rely on it. And the fire is moving this direction, so we're pretty much, well, there's nothing we can do there. Let's back up and go way back and start thinking, well, can we stop it down the building, or at least slow it down so it's not going to put off enough embers for the Dudley, the Parkage shop, Salamanca Lumber, and Aluminum. Okay, this is back at the east end of it here. We're looking back at the building across the street. We've got our hose line up into here. We're thinking, well, let's try and keep it from jumping to that building. I don't think we ever did actually get any fire. It spread through here until we shut this line down. I think it worked great. But you can see the radiant heat started every window frame on fire. I mean, so what we did with the tube, good idea, but it didn't work. And we also had an aerial coming to set right here to keep this whole building wetted down, but the aerial wasn't here yet. Salamanca's aerial is operating on the other corner. Little Valley's aerial at this time is just arriving at the far end of the building, and I believe Cattaraugus is entering the lumber yard.
About what time was that?
I don't know the times without looking them up.
But you had the flag flying there.
What's that?
You had the flag.
The flag, all the flags made it through the fire. I give credit to a lot of the firemen for keeping them, but you see I had this aerial come here to try and keep this out here. And at this point we're thinking, well, do we set it up or do we put the aerial onto the back side? We ended up moving the aerial to the back side. You can see here where this is, actually we started setting the aerial up. You can see here it's flowing through here, flowing through there. You can see the fire we have going down the street. This building wasn't anything in it to be saved. Unlike the building across the street, I don't even know if this building had a roof on it. It was in very, very bad shape. Okay, this is looking at the back side of this building. So where we were just at is here. We're standing behind Malcone Industries looking at this, and you can see how all that top floor, and radiant heat going up, is caught through and caught that floor on fire, that whole floor on fire. So now at this point, we've got to start thinking about Malcones, aluminite, Salamanca lumber. So we moved that aerial that was out. Moved the aerial that was out, we were around there. Meanwhile, on the other side of the building, the Save-A-Lot side of the building, we've taken Little Valley's aerial, we've come way down here past another fire stop, and let's say, all right, let's try and slow it down a little bit through here by putting some water in these windows. And again, this truck right here flows about 1,000 to 1,500 gallons a minute. The streams don't look that big, but they flow a lot of water. When you think about how much water that is in your house. So you can see where the fire is. We've got a fire stop here, and I believe there's a fire stop right here. We're saying, well, let's see if we can get enough people in here who are at least going to slow it down. We're not trying to really save the building at this point. We're trying to keep other buildings from getting involved. And at no time did we ever put anybody inside this building in fighting the fire. The only place that really had anybody inside the building is when we put that water curtain up in that tube, and that building wasn't even on fire, anywhere near on fire. We're set up there. You can see how fast the water is moving down through that, the fire is moving down through that building.